And you are listening to another edition of Blewetts Blitz, watching another edition of Blewetts Blitz. A little bit of a crazy day for me, so this is only going to be about an hour and 5 minutes. I have Jake show at 4 o'clock doing a pretty extensive review of the top 3 quarterback options as of now for the Jets. Working off of a absolutely brand new computer, so if it doesn't work, if it's laggy, I'm going to be furious. So we should be good. Still working through some of the technology stuff. So used to Mac and now working with Windows. So a little bit different for me. But overall, different computer. So thank God. But ugly game, 48-20 by the Jets. The biggest news of the week, Alan Lazard released, going to be the Steelers' 5th, 6th receiver for a potential playoff run for them. But in all seriousness, I'm just glad that this season's only 3 more games. The next game is going to be a little bit nerve-wracking with the Saints, because at the end of the day, fan how you want to fan. For me personally, I want the Jets to lose. I don't think 3 or a win at the end of the season here to make the Jets 4-13 instead of 3-14 makes them suddenly like build a culture, or anything like that. A few weeks ago when they were winning, it was a situation where, hey, they are building that culture. But when you have a few competitive games, you beat the Browns, you beat the Bengals, you beat the Falcons, some of it are obviously a lot of it by special teams, but still you win those games. You compete with the Ravens, you compete with the Pats. It's like, okay, we're starting to turn around here. Like let's win some games. But then you really offset that, last week, getting blown out. And then this week, you kind of just compound it, getting blown out again. Like, I don't think it makes very much of an impact to win games right now. So I'm all for competitive losses. At this point, before the Jets could blink in this game, they were down 14 again, just like 21 last week. So ugly. But I want the losses at this point. Competitive losses preferably, but winning games does nothing for the culture. Let's be honest. There's no player like, oh my God, thank God we went 4-13 instead of 4 or 3-14. Like, no, the players don't care like that. They'll care in the individual moment, but it's not like Breece Hall is going to sign here if they're 4-13 versus 3-14 or anything like that. So lose games, get a higher draft pick. Jets are currently 5th. Playing the Saints, huge game for draft positioning. If the Jets can get to 3 or 4, I have a good feeling that 3 quarterbacks will come out in this draft, and you'll at least be able to grab one of the 3. Now, maybe a guy like Moore falls to the mid-first, late-first. Maybe Simpson falls to the mid-first, late-first. It seems like Mendoza's the consensus number 1. Or let me retract that. It doesn't seem like he is. He is. Doesn't mean he'll finish there. But if you can finish with pick 3 or 4, that would obviously be excellent. There should be a quarterback there. And if the Jets do have a ton of conviction, and let's say Mendoza, obviously trading up from 4-1 or 4-2 or whatever it's going to be, instead of 7 or 8 or 9 to 1 or 2, is a huge difference in terms of the capital you're going to have to trade. So lose games at this point. And I'm just so excited to not watch this team anymore. Like this current 2025 version of the Jets, the reviews have just been exhausting to do. Brutal. Defense, horrific. And Steve Wilks was fired for a reason. If you've been either watching my reviews, the short reviews, some of the weeks I've done them on Wilks defense. The long reviews, obviously, I've recapped it quite a bit. And then Jake's show, if you guys watch Jake's show, I've been doing a lot of the defense stuff too. And you can see why he was fired, right? It was gross, from run defense and guys not fitting where they're supposed to. The pass defense, the blown coverages, not knowing their assignments. It was just horrific, this defense. So he needs to go. Now, maybe I wish it was done next week instead of this week, because you don't want that new coach surge with the Jets on defense, where I think it's Chris Harris, the defensive backs coach, is going to be taking over, and apparently he's like an upcoming coach in the NFL. As per some media members, we'll see. Maybe it's a 3-game audition. Maybe he gets the spot. If not, you have guys out there who people have been talking about for weeks now, with like the Jim Leonards of the world, the Wink Martindales of the world. Some people have talked about Raheem Morris from the Falcons. If he gets fired, connection to Aaron Glenn there. So maybe he's a defensive guy. Maybe he comes in. Nonetheless, Wilks, the move needed to be done, right? There's a reason he was fired and one and done in most places. And it's because his defense sucks. And the idea wasn't bad, and maybe we should have looked into it more, obviously, but the idea wasn't bad. Like, hey, guy with previous head coaching experience, interim in Carolina, right? And then a head coach in Arizona, new Jets with a rookie head coach. Hey, he can coach him up, help him out, all that stuff. But clearly the defense was, one, they were giving up. The amount of blown assignments, the amount of blown run assignments, pass assignments were awful. The players were quitting, JJ, who I'm a little bit disappointed in this week, media asked him for an interview. He said, nah, like, come on, dude, you're a leader. Quincy declined to comment, which I like the boom plays of Quincy, but the bust plays of Quincy frustrate me more than the boom plays make me excited. I'm excited to not watch Quincy play football anymore. I'll be honest. He was horrific in this game. In multiple aspects. He let up 3 touchdowns. The angle route from the tight end, I believe he was way too far outside leverage. The wheel route from, I believe it was ETN. He didn't see the rub coming and played underneath of it instead of over top of it because he's over aggressive. And then you had the screen to, I think it was ETN again, where he plays, he's in man coverage and he follows the play, but instead of being conservative, getting over top of the block and cutting off the running back and force him to cut back inside where the pursuit can come from, he tries to undercut the block, defeat the hand, and he gets blocked. And then it's sideline all day and it's game over, But awful defense, some lack of effort. Will McDonald, lack of effort on that one Trevor Lawrence touchdown run where he gets juked out of his shoes by Trevor Lawrence, and then he starts loafing it. You had the Cowboys game where Sherwood, fourth game of the year, is loafing it on a screen. That was his fault that got so open. So just so bad, just so bad by the Jets. But here we are, 3 games left. Hopefully they lose them all and we can finish with pick 3 or 2. I think the Giants and the Raiders play upcoming. You're hoping obviously the Raiders win that game against the Giants, even though, I think the Giants have a quarterback. So I think they win that game. Root like hell for the Raiders in that game. And really, I can't actively root for the Saints, but I obviously want them to win this upcoming week. So with those 2 situations, the Jets can get up to 3. And I think the Titans play like a bad team or 2. I forget exactly what it is, but I know the Giants, Raiders play, and obviously we play the Saints this week. So those 2 go our way. They're pick 3. Some other things can happen. There's a chance they can move up to 1, but I think really pick 2 or 3 is the highest they're going to get. In situation where the Saints may not need a quarterback, because everything I've seen and heard about Tyler Show is that he's actually playing well for them, but, and the Giants are going to need one. So if those 2 teams are above you, fine. But the Browns are going to need one, right? Shedeur started out hot his first game, but then has been S since then. The Titans aren't going to need one. So you're going to be really competing with the Raiders and I think the Browns for a quarterback here. So if you could finish above both of those teams, excellent. I don't know the Browns schedule coming up. I don't. I think it's relatively difficult. I think I looked it up a few days ago, but nonetheless, let me say hello to some people again. I got about an hour just because usually I have my mother-in-law here and stuff, but father-in-law got sick and she can't be here. So just a whole situation where I don't have as much time as I thought I would today. So having to run around a little bit. So shorter stream this week, but it's all good. And in the offseason, we'll probably go to every other week or something like that. Get Sabo back on here, Nanya back on here and stuff. My schedule has just been so wild. And having hour shows and 2-hour shows and whatever else that I don't want to ask them to join me because it's just chaotic. And actually, and realistically too, I actually like answering the chat and hitting all your questions, or I can't necessarily do that with either one of those guys. But we'll plan that in the offseason. We'll get them back on here and there. Howdy, what's up, Todd? David, think this game was a nice reminder of who shouldn't be back. Yeah, a lot of people. Sherwood, get rid of him if you can. I don't know if they're going to be able to get rid of that contract, whatever. But my God, he is horrific as well. Quincy's awful. Isaiah Oliver might be the worst safety I've ever seen. He's more of a slot corner, but my God, he's awful. Stevens didn't have a good game. Bit on double move hard. It was really, really bad. JJ. And I said on Twitter, is it okay to say that I understand that JJ is coming off of an injury, but at the same time, I've been disappointed with JJ. There's not much pass rush there. I think there's been one instance of him beating a tackle cleanly and getting to the quarterback. Another one of his sacks, he beat a tight end one-on-one, which great, but it's a tight end. But in the run game, I've been a little bit disappointed in him, getting moved by tight ends and stuff. So it doesn't look like the same player. Obviously, he's not going to coming off the injury, but still slightly disappointed in him. But he'll be here next year, and we'll see if he can bounce back. But he's not a guy I'm signing to a $20 million contract or anything like that. I think he's been average at the very, very best this year. So that Will McDonald, lack of pass rush too. He had one play he forced a hold. He had another play where he blew up a screen, and then there's another play where he blew up a run. He actually played the run really well in that play, but overall, still for a first round draft pick, disappointing. And it's not revisionist history. I probably have tweets about it, but like going into that pick, him versus JSN, I knew who JSN was. The Jets needed a receiver. I did not know who Will McDonald was, and I wanted JSN, and he's blowing it up. And I think 99% of Jets fans, if not 100, wanted Will McDonald or JSN over Will McDonald. So I'm not like taking a leap there, right? We probably all wanted it, but my God, if we had JSN Garrett Wilson right now, that'd be quite a bit nice. So whatever is what it is. Let's get into more of the chat here. Wilks and Lazard are out of here. The nightmare is finally over. I wouldn't say that, Yoshi. We're still living in it. Hopefully they could turn it around. But listen, at the end of the day, this coaching staff minus Banjo has, and a little bit of Engstrand again, like a B minus coordinator at this point, in my opinion. They haven't done enough for me to be like, yeah, I think these guys are the future. So yeah, I like, what has Aaron Glenn done that's good? Really? Like, we've been talking about it for forever at this point. First couple of weeks we talked about it, but like reemphasizing now, he's got a little bit better with like time management stuff and things like that. But overall, there's no redeeming qualities where I'm like, oh my God, look at the progress that he's made with anything. Basically, Moose says, I completely understand fans wanting to be patient and get a quarterback in 2027, but I think those people don't take into account this regime can't wait that long. Yeah, no, that's a good point. We've brought that up quite a bit here, Moose, that this regime, like, let's say they go with a bridge quarterback next year, they finish with 4 or 5 wins, and then Woody Johnson looking at it and being like, we had 7 wins over 2 years. Is this the staff to then bring in a quarterback and develop him? Because then if you fire him after they bring in the quarterback in 2027, now you're in 2028, like, shit, we just fired our coach. Now this quarterback learned a new system. We let this regime make all of these investments, $100 million the next 2 years of cap space and multiple first round draft picks. And we're going to allow, this regime to waste all that capital and then fire them. So like, yeah, it doesn't make sense for Muji or Glenn to do that. And then on top of that, you don't know what the 2027 class is. Remember, again, this exact time last year, we were all talking about how great the 2026 class was. And I'm not just saying that, like, that's legit. All the quarterbacks are supposed to be the top. And I've said this 1,000 times that, it was Klubnik and it was Nussmeier and it was Sellers and it was Arch Manning who just, committed to go back to Texas. And it was, whoever else. And none of those guys are at the top now, so all the guys who are going to be there in 2027 as quarterbacks could all go back to school, could get injured, could suck. And there could be 1 or 2 guys at the top of the draft and the Jets don't have the top pick because they invested all this money. Or even if they're pick 5 and the two top teams are quarterback needy teams, then you're shed of luck and you're hoping that a second round quarterback, third round quarterback is your answer, like, or a veteran on the trade market. So you can't do it for multiple reasons. You don't want to force a quarterback this year necessarily, but you kind of have to force a quarterback this year, So let me just hold on, turn on the brightness on my screen. My God, I can like this. I'm just getting used to this computer. Okay, that's a little bit better. So Todd says this season has been enjoyable as a kick in the nuts. Yeah, man. Remember you're a kid, you got kicked in the nuts all the time. I do not miss that. That is the one thing. Like, I miss childhood a lot, but I definitely got my nuts hit a lot more when I was a kid. Tap sack and whatever. Friends come up behind, especially like a football team in the locker room, get your nuts hit at least once a day. There's a certain point I'm like, am I going to be able to have kids? Because like you hear that you get hit in the nuts, you can't have kids. Certain point I'm like, dude, I get hit in the nuts so much, I'm not going to have kids here. So yeah, but nonetheless, I would rather watch this game. I think the getting kicked in the nuts part is a little bit worse, which a little sidebar here. I've had that argument with my wife, and maybe I'm an idiot, but I'm like, the peak of the pain of getting kicked in the nuts, I would argue, and again, this sounds stupid, but I was like, I think that peak of the pain is worse than childbirth. It sucks. It is worse. Like, can you imagine if you had the pain of getting kicked in the nuts for 10 hours? I don't think anybody will be able to handle that. Epidural, all that stuff, So I don't know. Kicked in the nuts that's the worst flaw. Like, why did God design us like that? Like, why can't those things be inside of us? I get the heat and all that shit, but still, you get what I'm saying. Like, that is just, They suck. We get some fire Ty Simpson tape to break down later. Yeah, I got about, I think, 8 plays of Simpson, 8 of Moore, and 8 of Simpson, 8 of Mendoza, 7 of Moore. I think I'm doing on Jake's show, or something just like that. Which actually, let me test out this new computer really quickly. I want, because you guys are my audience. I know some of you are on Jake's show as well and stuff, but let me know if this works really well. Like, let me just show you my screen, and if it's laggy at all, I'm gonna bug out. I'm not gonna lie, because this is after the last game, or after the last review on Jake's show, it was a thing where I was like, I literally cannot do another show with how bad this film is. But tell me if this is very clear, not choppy at all. Because if it's choppy again, I'm gonna lose it a little bit. Let's see. You should be able to see the entire screen here. Is this choppy at all? It's good. Tell me in the chat. I can't see the chat right now, but I'll let it play through, because I'm seeing no choppiness on my end. So let me know if this is a good good film clip. And it's a little blurry right there. That's just the quality of the film. It's not my computer, the blurriness. I just want to make sure it's not very choppy. So this is the reason I bought the new computer. So if it's still choppy, I have massive issues, but apparently this is a very good computer for having it not be choppy and all that stuff. So just let me know if it's choppy or not. If so, I got to adjust something. Let me go to the bottom of the chat and see if you guys answered, because that's a huge deal. It's okay. Very slightly choppy, but looks a million times better than last week. Okay. All right. Yeah, and it could be a little bit choppy just because of the video. It could be because of the video, like the actual film, not my computer. It shouldn't be. What's up, Chris? Who's even starting at corner other than Stevens this week with Oliver going on IR? Well, Oliver was playing more safety this week, and they were putting Jordan Clark in a slot role, who's clearly a UDFA and stuff. He's really obviously not very, very good at this point, but Oliver was the safety. So I'm assuming the safety this week will be Dean Clark, with Jordan Clark as the slot. God. And you know what sucks too about the end of the season is I thought at least we'd be able to evaluate some of the young guys and see where they are for the 2026 roster and all that stuff in terms of specifically the cornerbacks. But it's awful that, you got 2, 3, 4 games of 2, 3 games of AZ Thomas, which isn't enough to necessarily evaluate him. Now, I do think he'll be a starting corner next year regardless, because it's not like corner's a dire need it's not a dire need, but it's not one of the primary needs, because at least you have some hope there with some of the players. But I would have loved to evaluate AZ Thomas. I would have loved to evaluate, Brownlee more, because he's volatile, and I said that as soon as he was signed, like he's gonna have some plays where, like, holy crap, he's a really good player. And there's some plays where he blows a coverage or he bites on a double move or he gets a penalty. We're gonna be frustrated with him, but I wanted more to evaluate these guys as the, number 2 corner in the starting slot. And we got 3, 4 games of each, and that's about nice. So, or that's about it. I was reading this as well. I don't know with why there's so many like little messages that pop up on a Windows, but I don't get that on Mac. I get like a bunch of like little notifications at the bottom of my screen, like, oh, download this. I don't know why. Yoshi says no pass rush linebackers are incredibly lost in space, really thin at corner, and we are starting an undrafted quarterback on the road. I'd say the Saints win by 10 plus. Listen, hey, I'd rather it be 3. Actually, no, 10 plus is fine. I don't want to stress. I just want them to lose this game. Competitive at the end. If I can choose, hey, the Jets lose, 24-23, yeah, I'll sign the dotted line. But the stress of watching that would be brutal, So yeah, 10 plus is fine for me, honestly. But linebackers have been horrific. Now they're learning new adjustments on the fly with a new DC. He's gonna probably keep mostly the same system and all that stuff, because you can't change it with 3 weeks left in the season. Corners, safety is incredibly thin. Talking about your number one safety in Cisco, who was a bad signing from the jump when we said that here. He's out. You have Isaiah Oliver, who's out, who's like your third or your fourth there. So now it's Tony Adams and Dean Clark as your safeties. Woof. So it's funny. That's actually my alarm. I was supposed to be waking up, but I woke up like 2 hours ago. So Crispy, what's up, dude? David, the thing with the Wilks hires, we don't know if the front office wanted Glenn to hire a veteran coordinator to be a mentor. If the front office, yeah, but like Glenn's making his own decisions, right? You know, you had Woody Johnson quite literally said that, not literally, because I'm forgetting the quote now, but he basically said or he said Muji is Glenn's sidekick. So I think Glenn has say on the roster, like final say on the roster. So to say he doesn't have final say on the coordinators and stuff, I think was a little bit silly. I do think that was Glenn's move, and I think I think the idea of it's okay, but clearly there's a reason that he was fired from each spot, you know. So at the end of the day, you know, like good idea in terms of a vet guy, but bad execution kind of. So defense has been bad and players new. Players, yeah, it's their fault too, though. Like you know, in terms of them blowing assignments, not getting pressure on Lawrence and stuff. Like, I don't want to just make Wilks a scapegoat and say, okay, everything else is going to be fine now, because it's not. Because the players have sucked individually as well. So I want to be fair to him. He didn't have help from some of these guys. That's for sure. Yoshi says Raiders also face KC at the end of the year. Oh yeah, who are going to have their backup is Minshew, right? And with Mahomes' injury, I think they'll win 1 or 2 games to finish the season. Hey, I would love that. You know, Giants, Chiefs with Minshew. Who did the Browns play the last 2 weeks? Oh, there you go, Yoshi. Thank you. Browns face Buffalo, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. Yeah, so maybe Cincinnati. You know, maybe it's a home game. I don't know. That's possible. But Buffalo's fighting for, you know, playoff seeding. Pittsburgh fighting to get into the playoffs. So I don't think they're going to win those games. Obviously, it's possible, but not likely. And then Cincinnati, you know, what would you do on defense now? In terms of that's a loaded question. If I'm going to blitz, I'm not just going to predetermine them and show them pre-snap that I'm blitzing with guys creeping up and being so close to the line of scrimmage. I'm not going to run man coverage on third down. If I do run man coverage, I'm going to have banjo calls. I'm going to have guys play at different levels. I'm going to teach the linebackers how to freaking learn how to match routes. Like there's so much bad run fits. I'm going to teach guys to be disciplined and not over pursue and not like scrape over into gaps and take on, like there's just so much wrong. Let's see. I'm just going to say something radical here, but Chris Banjo should be the head coach. But like the problem is, and we saw it with Saleh, just because you're a good coordinator of a certain spot doesn't mean you're a good head coach, right? World Sack Center 2 years ago, the conversation was Quinn Ewers would be generational. Yeah, dude, like it happens all the time. And not even 2 years ago. Look again, last year, Klubnik, Nussmeier, Sellers. Oh my God, they're the top 3. Arch Manning, he's gonna be number 1. And then there's another dude who I'm forgetting off the top of my head, who is up there. Oh, Drew Lohr. Oh my God, there are gonna be 5 first round quarterbacks. You know, five quarterbacks in the top 10 this year. It's crazy stacked. 2026. Just wait until 2026. No need in 2025. Okay, great. 2026 gets here, and all those guys are gonna be, you know, mid-round picks going back to school, you know, injured, whatever. Like you can't just wait. You can't just wait because of hope for the next year, you know? I love the fact that Glenn's proactive, at least. Yeah. Like, hey, at least he's admitted some of the mistakes he's made, you know, even though he's been a little bit late or the decisions weren't great in the first place, but yeah, like cut Xavier Gibson. Fine. You know, this move. Okay, fine. But sure, you know, but it's still not like, obviously, I know you're not saying this, Nick, but like we need more than that for me to be faithful in him going forward. Slow runner. Jets have a lot of holes to fill on defense. It doesn't make sense to draft a rookie quarterback and receiver 2 unless these guys are generational talents. We badly need DN, free safety, and 2 linebackers. Yeah, but like the thing is, you need a quarterback. Like we had a team the last 2 or 3 years who had all pros at every level, pro ballers, you know, all pro rookie corner, rookie of the year receiver, you know, solid offensive line, studs on the D line, all pros at linebacker, you know, a little bit weak at safety every year, but like we've had talent and we won 7 games. You know, you need to get a quarterback first. And I get they have holes to fill, but you could address receiver 2 in the draft. You could address receiver 2 in free agency. It's not receiver 1. It's not like you need a superstar because you have Garrett Wilson. You have a solid offensive line. You should have Brees, assuming they didn't trade him for a reason. They plan on re-signing him. You have Rucker, who I think is a decent tight end 3. You have Mason Taylor, who I think is a starter. You need a tight end 2, a receiver 2. Re-sign Simpson, another interior offensive lineman, so like it's not like they need a ton on offense. The offense with a decent quarterback is capable. I think it's an okay offense to come into. It's definitely not what Sam Darnold or Zach Wilson came into with the worst run game, the worst offensive line, and absolutely nothing at receiver. Like, he has talent, so I'm not skipping on a quarterback because we need a DN and a free safety and 2 linebackers. Because even if we have all pros at every position, what are we going to win? 7, 8 games? It doesn't matter until you get your quarterback. And the problem is you address these holes, and then they win more games, and it just makes it harder to get a quarterback because of where you're going to be picking. So let's say they address receiver 2, two linebackers, a D end, a free safety, all this stuff. And then, oh my God, great. The Jets win 8 games next year with Gardner Minshew as their quarterback, and they're pick 15. And then it's like, shit, we can't get a quarterback. So then we're stuck in purgatory. So like, I'm not just skipping on a quarterback because we have holes. It's not, again, if we were the 2019, 2020 Jets, I would be more in line with you, but it's not like the Jets are working from zero, specifically on offense. Ty Simpson has massively cooled down. He's definitely cooled down. I think a little bit of it's overstated though. Like, people just automatically, like, oh my God, he's maybe a 2nd round pick now. It's a little bit crazy. Again, I'll show some of it later. And I showed it last week. There's a play where he hit a post, where the receiver stopped running. It would have been a dot for a touchdown. There's another play, I think it was maybe 3rd down, and he gets pressured. He puts the ball up in the receiver's hands in like a fade. The receiver doesn't make a play for him, where Mendoza's receivers typically do. So that's 2 touchdowns just in the Georgia game where he could have had if the receivers made a play for him. And people are talking about that game completely differently because of 2 plays. That's not including other plays. Deep comeback on the right sideline where he put it in the receiver's hands and the receiver dropped it. So literally just 2 plays were completed, receiver making a better play for him. We're talking about 2 touchdowns. And then people are like, oh my God, good game versus Georgia. But people are so heavily results versus process based that I'm not going to convince people of that unless you actually watch the film reviews. Even at that point, you're probably not going to be convinced because people just don't move their opinions, even with evidence. But I'm not saying it's been great, but if that Georgia game, like, let's see, Ty Simpson stats. Let's see if I could. I'm just curious. I want to make a point here, and I know they would have gotten beaten probably anyway. But Georgia, he was 19 for 39, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. So then if those 2 plays were made, and he was 21 with 212 yards. So he was 19 of 39, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 212 yards. If that one play, which the receiver should not have slowed down on that, and the other one where the receiver could have made a play on the ball, he put it in his hands, he dropped it, or he didn't track it well. If he had 21 of 39 for 200 and let's say 60 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, what is everybody saying in that game? What is everybody saying? Like, legitimately, what are people saying? So has he been terrible? No. Has he been great? Maybe not, but he's been okay. It's like, there's a few misses in Georgia, no doubt, but just those 2 plays would make a completely different narrative about him. But again, everybody is, did they win the game? What are the stats? Don't look great. Okay, he's bad. And I know that's 97% of people. Sorry. Just true. There's a lot of talk about Bart Scott as a DC. Have you heard? No. A lot of talk from who? Like, being real, like, I'm sorry, but just because you played the NFL does not know you know how to coach. It means nothing because you played. Or it means something, but it's like 10% of the solution. Coaching and playing are completely different. Completely different. So no. If he was a coach of linebackers, like, okay, but who's to say he can coach, D line? He can be the overseer of the D line, the safeties, the corners, defensive schemes. No, I don't. Does he have any coaching experience? No, I would definitely not do that. RJ has been a Jets fan for a little bit here. Watch, we'll beat the Saints to ruin our pick off a game-winning interception. Dude, that is so Jets. 100% Jets. This could not be more correct, RJ. You are a beaten down Jets fan because you're probably right. It's gonna be the last drive. The Jets are down, 2 points or whatever, and they make a play somehow. Listening to this podcast is like getting kicked in the nuts. It's weird, Chris. You're always here, but thanks, I guess. Looks good. Thanks. Add the big cursor. My cursor is massive. You should see that. It is huge. It's pretty big. It's literally probably an inch on my screen right now, which is a massive cursor. So also it could be a limitation on whatever software you're using, not necessarily a computer issue. Last week it was 100% because I had a 2017 computer with thousands and thousands, probably over tens of thousands of plays recorded on that easily. Now I deleted and I cleaned up the system every once in a while, but you hear the fan like struggling during reviews and stuff. So I had to buy the computer. I was going to push it off, but I walked upstairs and I told my wife, I'm like, I'm ordering a computer. I just got to drop it was a little bit over 1K, but it's fine. It's just, I needed to do it because the reviews were unbearable. Apparently I didn't go back and watch, but the chat was not thrilled, but it's okay. This Jets season look like Brett Favre. Hey, and that's fine because it helps the Jets in two ways. One, maybe they have more confidence in Show, and two, they lose, they move above the Saints. Perfect. I hope Show goes for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns the rest of the Jets. I would love a quarterback coach for our New York Jets like JT Barrett, David Blau, Mike Burkott. I don't know, Chad Pennington, etc. I would love an actual quarterback or a quarterback's coach instead of a guy who was just coaching running backs. I know he's been a quarterback coach for a few years. We had no background in it, and he was a running backs coach. So, and he's developed nobody. Like even if he was a running backs coach, converted to quarterbacks coach, and he actually developed at least the one player, then fine. But like everybody he worked with was awful. So yeah, I would like an actual quarterbacks coach. That'd be definitely nice. So I'd like to see the Jets from Slovener be competitive for the first half. It's demoralizing when the Jets go down 20. But like really, if they're competitive, you're gonna be nervous. Like, oh my God, maybe they win. At least if they're down 21-0 in the first quarter, like, hey, probably got a top 3 pick locked up here. So it'll suck, but it's not. It's 3 more games of it. Like we're so used to it that one more game of it's not going to break our backs. If they do, it's fine. Again, if I could sign the dotted line right now, really competitive loss. Awesome, but in the moment it's gonna be stressful. So I'm okay with getting blown out. Sucks. That's where we are year after year after year after year after year. But it's what happens in a 15-year playoff drought. I think the longest is like 17, right? 17 or 18, like Bills, maybe Browns. I forget exactly who it was, but hopefully we could not tie the record for the longest drought ever. I can't be the only one who thinks Brees just has no explosiveness. He does have some explosiveness. It's definitely not what it was a year or two, or not even a year ago, 2-3 years ago. That's for sure. He's definitely not as explosive. I do think, and I've said this many times, I do think Jets fans in general tend to overrate Brees a little bit. I think he's above average, but he's not a superstar. I don't think he's a top 5, maybe even top 10 running back. Like gun to my head right now, he's the 14th best running back in the NFL, 12th. Let's say 12th best running back in the NFL, which is fine. But people kind of talk about him like he's Christian McCaffrey, which has never been true. He had a few explosive runs and stuff in his first couple of years, but he's not McCaffrey. He's not Barkley. He's not one of these guys. But with that being said, I'm retaining him because if they didn't dump him for a 4th round pick to the Chiefs at the trade deadline and then don't re-sign him, what are you doing? Because you're going to walk for nothing. You're not getting a comp pick because you're going to sign a ton of guys this year. There's going to be a contract that offsets it. So, yeah. Beloved Peace, this defense needs a lot of work. I'm cool with not trading up and drafting Ty Simpson or more and receiver. And again, like in terms, this feels a little bit high. In terms of the quarterbacks, like even if you have Mendoza 1, I'm completely fine with that. If you had Dante Moore 1, fine. I think he's still my 3. I think it's probably Simpson, Mendoza, Moore in that order right now. Mendoza's fighting Simpson for 1, but nonetheless, the margin is pretty thin. Like I think people think it's like Mendoza here and then Moore here and then Simpson all the way here. I think it's much more so like Mendoza, Simpson, Moore. Bloody Piece, you're being too optimistic. Oh, sorry, I didn't answer the rest of that. Wide receivers our first 2 picks and dressing defense after those needs are addressed. Yeah, obviously, like, hey, if really great, if Sony Styles falls to you and you love him at pick, 16 or whatever, fine. I'm not forcing offense, but I definitely want to lean towards offense. 9 new starters on defense. I think that's a little bit of a reach. I do. I think JJ and McDonald are going to be starters next year. That's two. I think Briggs and Phillips are probably going to be your starters on the D line. And I'm not saying this is great, but that's probably four in terms of like, I'm not saying they're excellent, but they're at least okay starters at times. I think you need two linebackers. You know, you have your corners. Like there can be an argument like, yeah, we need eight, 9 new starters to be the top defense in the NFL to be passable, to be a passable defense, an okay defense. I think you need, safety, linebacker, probably going to keep Sherwood, unfortunately. So you need safety, linebacker, at least another D end, so you probably need like 3 or 4 starters next year. 3 or 4 guys. Guys like Sherwood, JJ, and McDonald, do you think it's a scheme issue or they aren't as good as we thought? Sherwood is not as good as Jets fans. Not only say Jets fans, I don't think he's as good as the Jets thought. Like we were surprised with that contract right off the jump, how large that contract was. I think they overrated him. I think JJ tends to be overrated by Jets fans. Again, a lot of his sacks are more effort and coverage based than they are like him truly winning a quick one-on-one. You love the effort, you love the leadership until this week. The run defense is typically pretty good. But he's realistically he's an okay D end. Like he's an okay starter. I don't think he's great. At times he's not even good. I think he's okay. I think he's just okay. I think he could be solid. I think he's solid at times, but this year, okay at the very best. He's probably below average. And then McDonald, unfortunately, is a boomer bust type of pass rusher who is should be more in the Huff role, instead of being a full-time starter. And they drafted him with a first-round pick, which is a problem. I find it hard to believe this is from the real two cruising. I find it hard to believe the new DC will make any difference this year. Yeah, this year probably not. Realistically, maybe a little bit better. Your tape shows that players are constantly out of position. They refuse to maintain gap integrity and they quit. Yeah, maybe they'll have some like new life to them with a new coordinator and all that stuff. But I don't think they'll get much better. But again, like how much of it is the coach? How much of it is the position coach? How much are they emphasizing, hey, whatever the coverage is, match the two. And then Quincy's eyes are somewhere else. And then he gets beat. Like, is that the coach's fault or is it the player's fault? It's definitely everybody. It's an everybody problem. It's not all on Wilks. So I agree with you. I don't think it's just going to immediately be like, oh my God, now we're decent. But we expected them to be an okay defense, and they're, I don't know, EPA, all this shit, whatever. I would say they're a bottom 2 defense in the NFL right now. I don't care what the numbers are. The Jaguars just put 48 up on us. The Dolphins put up 21 before you could blink. The Cowboys put up, 21 points or whatever it is in like 3 minutes. The Bills could have beat us by 50 if they wanted to, took their foot off the gas. Jags could have put up 60. They took their foot off the gas. So this defense is bottom 2 in the NFL, in my opinion, with the Bengals. It's also the Bengals are the worst defense in the NFL. So yeah, new coordinator might make some difference, but not a huge difference. Now, a good coordinator comes in and coaches these guys up. I think they could be okay. They're not talentless. They have some players. Carson Beck, that's another guy who was supposed to be, a top 1 or 2 round pick, and he might be like a 5th, 6th, 7th. Okay, let's see. Are we going to force a quarterback pick with our first rounders? I don't think they're going to force it, but semantics. Like I think they kind of are going to force it though. I don't think they're just going to I don't think they hate Mendoza and just say, hey, let's trade up for him. They may be slightly nudged like, hey, we got to get it done this year though. Joe Flacco should be the bridge. Sure. Like I'm so indifferent, like whatever. I've been watching so many we've been watching so many bad quarterbacks and talking about so many bad quarterbacks, whether it be like Flacco or Minshew or Mario. Like I don't care. I really don't care. Whoever it is, fine, whatever. I just want the guy, the McCowns, the Fitzpatrick, the Flaccos, the Justin Fields, just whatever. I really couldn't care less about the bridge. I really don't. Like I'll care in the moment and I'll watch them like, oh, I wish I would have signed this guy maybe. But like right now, I really don't care. Now, with that being said, like Flacco processes decently and he's okay when he has time in the pocket, and the Jets offensive line is pretty solid. So he wouldn't be the worst option, but who cares? Like who cares? Kyle comes back if the Jets. I don't think Kyle's ever coming back. I do not think Kyle's ever coming back. I haven't really talked to him much. He's been a little bit absent, but it's okay. It happens. some life stuff going on. Brady Cook should start the rest of the year to see if he can be a backup quarterback for the team. If not starting, I don't know if with just 3 games left, I could, even if he has good games, I can trust him to be the backup next year. Like, let's say there's say in some ungodly world where they don't land a quarterback and it's like Flacco, and at that point, he really even cares, honestly. But I don't think he can. Let me rephrase. I don't think he can prove enough in 3 games he can't prove enough in 3 games to show me that he could be a backup quarterback. Like, he needs more time, more games. Now, with that being said, he had some really good anticipation throws. The hinge route to AD Mitchell on the sideline. He had a few good plays, no doubt. The picks weren't great. The first pick to AD Mitchell, he put the ball way too far behind him. That was an awful ball. I don't think his accuracy is great, like short and intermediate from what I've seen. And he doesn't have really like a lot of zip and drive on the ball. His arm strength is definitely not great. That was probably his worst pick. The second one, what was the second one? The second one was the one in the end zone to Lazard. That was a bad one too. He reads the flat to Ruckert first to the right side, and Ruckert's actually kind of open, and it's like first and goal from like the 7. If he hits Ruckert there, either it's 2nd and 1 or 2nd and goal from the 1, or if he can catch the ball and just turn up a little bit, it's a touchdown. So I like to see him hit the flat. He doesn't. He gets to the mesh, the deeper mesh in the middle of the field with 2 receivers, comes off of it because it's covered. And he had Lazard in like a leak who was working like underneath the formation, and he was running a crossing route. But what happens is when he was running a crossing route, you had Hines Allen who was cutting it off. So instead of continuing it vertical to where Hines Allen was, Hines Allen's getting depth, and Lazard tries to undercut it. But I don't think Cook sees Hines Allen, so he just throws the ball up to where he thinks Lazard is going to be, but he doesn't process that, hey, Hines Allen is there, and I shouldn't throw it in general, but he floats it up there and it's picked off. And then the third one was Arian Smith, and it wasn't even the fact that it wasn't Arian Smith didn't fight back to the ball, because he actually did. But what happened was he was late to fight back for the ball because he runs a corner route. I believe it's a smash concept, and he breaks out on the corner and he looks at the curl to flat. And instead of looking back for the ball, he's looking at the curl to flat, gets his eyes back to the ball late. And that's why he's late to go then fight back for the ball. He does fight back for it, but just late because he was checking the curl to flat instead of just looking back for the ball like he should have. So a little bit more of nuance there than just, he didn't fight back for it, because he actually did. He just gets mossed. He gets mossed, but it is what it is. So, but yeah, overall, like for UDFA, I think he's actually made some impressive plays. Like I would say arrow up for Cook versus arrow down. The 3, obviously 2 of the 3 picks were terrible, but he's a UDFA and you're down 2-3 scores pretty much immediately. So, Georgia's the top 2 defense in the entire country. I wish, this is from Ty, obviously, not obviously, but he says if Ty Simpson was on Indiana, he'd be the number 1 overall pick, no question. I definitely think that Mendoza's had more help with his receivers making plays and the running game. There's no doubt about it. I would love to live in an alternate universe where I could just see them on different teams. I do think the narrative would be different, though. I do think that Mendoza has more help on his team than Simpson has, but people see Alabama and, his receivers are amazing. The offensive line's amazing because they'd assume that with Alabama, but they really have not been helping him out a ton. The running game is non-existent. Yak is non-existent. The drops are evident, or they show up every game. You have a receiver stop running a post route in this game. It's like, what are you doing? And it would have been an absolute dot. Again, he could have had 3 touchdowns and 1 pick, and people would have been talking about that game completely differently. But so much stuff is again the stat-based bullshit. Basically, Moose says, I'd rather fix the offense over defense. Obviously, you try to fix both, yes. But if I had to choose, I'm okay if we fill offensive holes and leave defense thin and lose. Yeah, dude, no doubt. Because like at the end of the day, it's the defense being good is going to help the offense and the quarterback. But what helps a rookie quarterback more? Having a stud D end who's going to get you 10 sacks, 12 sacks, 13 sacks, or a number 2 receiver who can get open consistently. Like you definitely want to lean towards offense. Now, you don't want to force offense. Like let's say, pick 18, it's Styles versus whatever receiver, and Styles is a A- player for you, and the receiver is just a B. I would say take the better player in Styles. But if it's like, let's say it's out of 10, make it a little bit more simple. If the receiver is a 9 and the linebacker is a 9.1, maybe you take the 9, instead of the 9.1, like things like that. But you don't reach hard for it. And we'll have to see what happens in free agency. Like all these guys who are going to be available probably won't be. Linderbaum probably be signed or whatever. So we'll see what happens. I think really past like Linderbaum and stuff, the free agency class does not look awesome. So, from Slow Runner, with all due respect. Okay, yeah, the media is cooling down on Ty Simpson is good for us. That means we won't have to trade up for a quarterback. Yeah, like, hey, we'll see. He has who does Alabama play? Is it this week they play somebody in the playoffs or whatever it is at this time of the year with college football? They're not the biggest college football guy. Obviously, I watch these guys. I've watched every single game of all the top 3 guys now, and seemingly I might have to do some work on Mensa or whatever he is. He seems like he may be elevating to like the number 4 quarterback in this class, where he could either be like a late first, early second. So he might be a guy I have to do some film work on. We'll see. I'll have plenty of time in the offseason. I'm going to pretty much wrap up my player reviews as the season's ending a little bit after. So I don't have a lot of time between recording those shows, which obviously I will be, and then like waiting for free agency to come. I'm not going to do like random. I'm not going to do like a Tyler Linderbaum review and the Jets don't sign him. It's a waste of my time. So I'll do the player reviews in January, February for you guys for like the short reviews and the long reviews, just reviewing guys' seasons, like focusing on them individually. And then, but while I'm doing that, I'll also be recording on, some of the draft options. Probably like, is it Mensa? Is that the guy from Duke? Is that his name? I know a lot of people are talking about Maiyava, whatever his name was, from USC. I believe today he committed back to USC for 2026. So it seems like the Duke quarterback may be the number 4 or elevating as a number 4. So I might have to watch him because say, the Jets don't grab one of the top 3 and then they take the Duke quarterback with pick 15, 16, whatever they're going to have with the Colts pick. Like, okay, fine. We'll evaluate. I think it's Mensa. I could be wrong. I forget his name, but I know it's a Duke quarterback. Getting kicked in the nuts was a joke, but the post was 20 minutes later from what you were recently talking about. Oh, I got you. Say, come on, Chris. I know you're in here. You voluntarily every week get kicked in the nuts. Hey, here's that dominatrix type stuff, maybe, Chris. I don't know. Let's see. I don't think it matters to the DC as the Jets don't have the guns on D to really compete. They have enough guns to not be the worst defense in the NFL. Like they have capable starting D tackles with Briggs and Phillips. You don't have great DNs, but they're not horrific. It's not like Jordan Jenkins and whoever else we were playing, in those years, so it's not great, but it's not 31st, 32nd defense in the NFL. I think with a better coach, they could be, I don't know, 20 to 23, 24, something like that. Beloved piece, every draft analyst and their mother has mocked Jets trading at least 2 first-round picks to get the number 1 overall to get Mendoza. I think that's absurd. Mendoza is solid, but I prefer Moore and Simpson. That's fine. The other week I kind of said that it's Simpson and Moore and then Mendoza for me. I was really, when I watched Mendoza, if you watch Mendoza, and I don't know if you can get it on YouTube or whatever, I'll obviously do the review. But Mendoza's game versus Purdue, I was very discouraged by that game. And I know they blew them out and he only threw the ball like 15 times, like 12 of 15. But when I do the review, I'll obviously you'll see the Purdue game and you'll see why. And I think I'll show maybe a player of 2 of the Purdue game on the review with Jake in 20 minutes from now. So I'm going to jump off in a few minutes, but so get your last second questions and I'm going to start firing through some stuff. We had a series. Yeah. What's his name? Yeah. Unfortunate, obviously, like a week before the season, Zach Wilson rookie year, and his quarterback coach gets hit and killed, riding a bike on the side of the road, which is awful. But on a plus note, Williams has been a great redemption story, which, by the way, I figured out after the broadcasters screwed up and the ref screwed up. It wasn't on Isaiah Davis. It was on number 30 who's blocking him out of bounds. Now, it was ticky-tacky, but by the rule, by the letter of the law, it was technically a penalty. So you can't kill the refs there. But when I initially heard it was on Isaiah Davis, I'm like, dude, he didn't even touch him out of bounds. It was 30. So unfortunate, but hell of a play by Isaiah Williams. And I think Isaiah Williams and Nguanu are going to be re-signed. They're your kick returner, punt returners next year. And then I think Isaiah Williams is probably, realistically receiver 5 or 6, next year, probably competing with Arian Smith for receiver 5, 6. I think it's probably, Garrett Wilson, new receiver number 2. AD Mitchell, your 3. Mechie, your 4, probably. And then 5 and 6 is probably Arian Smith and Isaiah Williams. And Arian Smith, obviously not a great game. The speed is still tantalizing. There are some plays where he's actually getting open deep because I've been doing the review of him. But obviously disappointing not fighting back for the ball not fighting back for the ball. There was one play, I think it was deflected or picked in the end zone a few weeks ago where he didn't fight back for it. And then this one, he's had better awareness. Like, don't be checking the curl to flat. Like, trust your quarterback to make that play. And, fight back for the ball earlier. Like, find it. Greg Knapp. I was looking for that name, Chris. Thank you. Could the Jets use JJ plus Will McDonald as trade pieces to move from the draft? Yeah, they could technically. Like, why not? Say the Titans need a pass rusher. Fine. All day. Like, I'm not attached to one of those guys. I like JJ more than McDonald because of the leadership and stuff, even though acknowledging Will McDonald has a much higher ceiling. So he's more interesting. But either one, yeah, if it was like, hey, the Jets are pick 3, or 4, and they want a first and Will McDonald, I'm not going to, nope, can't have Will McDonald. Like, yeah, fine, throw it in. Eagle Fang says 17 is the longest playoff drought, I guess, in football, and 25 is the longest in professional sports. Who has 25? I'm curious. But I think you said also Folk. Yeah, Folk is the best. And again, I haven't seen every kicker, but in terms of like the last couple of years, he missed 1 field goal this year. Dude is amazing. Yeah, I'm not with you on this one, Eagle. Brees can go give me Jeremiah Love. I'm not taking with all the holes the Jets have, I'm not taking a running back. And listen, if he falls to 15, 14, like, okay, it's more of a conversation, but with all the holes, still not a great idea, probably. And I don't think he gets there anyway, but the Jets have so many holes. I'm not touching a running back right now, But yeah, if Brees went and they draft him at 15, okay. Like, I could live in that world. Apparently the Jets were going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs if he didn't go at pick like 14 or whatever, and they drafted McDonald at 15 or whatever it was. Anyone mentioned the Dolphins not winning a playoff game in 25 years? Yeah, that's why I hate the Dolphins the most, because they speak like they've won Super Bowls in recent years. Okay. David says, want to know how the last interception the Jets had in a game they weren't eliminated, last year's London game. Was that their last pick? I honestly can't even remember. Oh, they weren't eliminated in. Okay. Yeah, well, it's what, 4 turnovers this year for us, or 3? A fumble, a muffed punt, a fumble this week, a fumble against the Broncos with Brownlee. Right, so it's 3? It's 3 or 4 turnovers. I forget if there's another one in there, but yeah, awful. Our Jets sign a linebacker like Anzalone, Leo Chanel, Quay Walker. Yeah, I'm down with him signing a linebacker. I would like to find a way to get rid of Sherwood. Trade him to, if they could take out the contract, trade him for, I would trade him in a 7th or a 6th to get rid of him to San Francisco. Hey, you have cap space. I don't know if they have cap space, but Sherwood in the 6th, you just take the contract. Like, I'm so ready to get rid of that guy. We need a true stud edge 1. We have 2 edge 2s. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, boss girl. They don't really have a stud D end. Yeah, unfortunately. Martinez getting cut is not a good omen for who's starting for the Jets this week. I think it's just more so the fact that I don't think Fields is playing again this year, obviously, just based on, I think they're the injury is, even if he did have an injury initially, I don't think it's stretching over a month now. So I think it's probably Tyrod's going to be the backup to Cook, and if it's Tyrod 1, Cook 2, whatever, but I think it'll be Cook. They cut Martinez. It's because Tyrod's probably healthy. I don't think Fields is going to suit up again for the Jets. But that's just me. They're not trading Garrett. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not trading Garrett. Will I know Eagles been on this, but I don't understand trading a 24-year-old, number 1 wide receiver to then hope that you get a number 1 wide receiver in the draft with the pick you get from him. Like, hey, again, it's the boat versus the mystery box thing. Like, hey, Garrett Wilson's the boat, the mystery box, which could be a boat. Why are we getting rid of the boat? I don't understand that. The Jets have plenty of cap space. They have plenty of picks. You don't need to trade a guy who's part of the solution. So Cuddy Martinez might mean Tyrod comes back as a 2 and Cook is they're not playing Fields again. I severely doubt that. Would you sit Ty Simpson if we drafted him? I would sit every single one of them. I would be, obviously, I think Simpson and Moore need more time than maybe Mendoza, but I'm sitting all of them. But yes. Oklahoma first round. Oh, they're playing Oklahoma this weekend. What's up, Dylan? Is that this Saturday? I think. Okay, Saturday's my second night of work, so I should be able to be up for that game. But my first night of work, I have to sleep a little bit before, because going from waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning with a baby or a toddler to then going to working at midnight with no sleep is terrible. So typically my first night back, I have to sleep for 2 hours before I go in. But yeah, Sorsby Maya be going back to school. And then the Duke quarterback, is that Mensa, Dylan? What's his name? I might have to watch him. Yeah, Mensa, there you go. Don't let the Mendoza slobber knockers sway. I don't know how long you've been in here for. I think you said last week you've been here for a little bit. I don't really let much of anything sway me. So it's fine. I won't. Who's an average Jets player you really liked? Average? Bilal Powell, Jeremy Curley. Would you call Chris Ivory more average, right? He was never a top 5 running back, but at the top of my head, and we can argue semantics, but I would say even Cotchery was average. He was never great, right? So on top of my head, Cotchery, Curley, Ivory type players. I'm trying to think of anybody average who I really liked. Yeah, I think that's probably about settles it with average players. I really enjoy watching. Does re-signing Josh Myers mean the Jets won't try to sign? No, I don't think it prohibits you. I think that you look at contracts nowadays for NFL offensive linemen, and that's a low-end starter to a high-end swing interior offensive lineman. Listen, he got what? And the contract's actually written out really well. I don't have time to go over it now, but it's a thing where they can actually get rid of him after 2026, and there's minimal, if any, cap hit in 2027. So that's good. But Ben Ajalana got 5 point. He got a 2-year, $11 million deal, $5.5 million per year. And this was in 2017. He was an awful player. So, you have a 2-year, $11 million deal or whatever exactly is with Myers. It's not going to prohibit them. It just gives them flexibility. Fields will start again. Hot take. Fine. I don't believe you. I feel you, Joe. Worked nights as a single mom for years. Amazing. You do all you do. I appreciate that. Yeah, working midnights is not the best for you, but it is what it is, right? I think it's all about perspective. I could be born in North Korea, having to dust off a shrine to Kim Jong-un. I could be born in America in the 1700s and be fighting in wars and not have any cure for a cold and die at 25 years old. So it's all about perspective. It's not that bad, right? I'll be fine. I'll live. I appreciate you guys. I got to run. I got to get ready for Jake's show. If you want to head over there, I'm going to be doing a film breakdown on the 3 quarterbacks with hopefully not choppy film. If it is choppy, it'll be my last show forever, because I'm going to go to another realm. I appreciate you guys. I will catch you.